This is Al Sachs. I'm the roving reporter for Cider Chat and Bon Vivant.
Hello, my name is Rio Windcaller, and I am the producer and cider MC of this weekly podcast, where we speak with makers, cider enthusiasts, and folks within the cider trade from around the world.
Hip, hip, hooray!
We heard from Al Sachs, bringing us into this here episode number 412 of Cider Chat. And I just love how he calls himself a bon vivant, which I could just kind of keep on saying over and over again. It just feels nice on the lips and in the mouth. Bon vivant. A little bit like a perfectly paired cider. And that's a lot of who Al is. He's a friend of mine. You may have met him at an event that would take place here for, the past 20 plus, almost 30 years as a chairman of an organization where he was doing all the details of programming on cider education. So he comes from a very long career of helping the cider community grow. And I'm just so happy that he's in my special spot of Ciderville. He's been on 2 Totally Cider tours to France. Sadly, Al will not be with us on the upcoming French cider tour, but you got to leave room for other people to attend. And not that he doesn't want to go, because he and Pamela, our tour guide, are such good friends, and he just has such an affinity for cider worldwide. A true bon vivant is someone who's very sociable, enjoys conversation, and in Al's case, he's not only that, but he also spent I don't know how many years as a radio host at the local college radio station, putting on the early morning jazz and just getting everybody woken up at the college, which is super cool. So he is just really something. And what you're going to be hearing this week is a special edition of Cider Chat, something that I'm hoping more bon vivants out there and potential cider reporters for Cider Chat might like to do too, which is to provide an audio snapshot of your particular special spot of Ciderville. Perhaps it's a cider maker or a happening at an orchard, and to send in your audio clips. And in this case, Al was down in Virginia, and he recorded with Kirk Billingsley of Big Fish Cider Company. And we last had Kirk on episode 124. That was back in season, let me look at the numbers here. That was season 3 of Cider Chat. I recorded that episode at CiderCon in Baltimore, Maryland in 2018. So it's been a couple years, and we took this opportunity for Al being down in Virginia and to sit down with Kurt in the tasting room at Big Fish Cider Company and give us a bit of an update. We'll be rolling to that featured conversation shortly. And also in this episode, we have an email from a new patron in Australia that really, there's a moment where it brought some tears to my eyes. Very, very powerful. We'll also be hearing another audio snapshot from Tom Oliver with a little, I don't want to say rebuttal from the Talking Palms. I mean, Tom, if you're listening, they adore you, of course.
Indeed we do, Rhea. Indeed we do. I quite like this audio snapshot from Tom.
I know, Perry. You absolutely loved it.
I did too.
Shall we move on?
Yes, Mr. Quince, let's do that. All right, so we have the email, we have the audio snapshots, and I think we should move on to, drum roll please, who's been cross-promoting cider this past week. First up, we have a post from Abalaget Garden Projects. And Abalaget, when it's translated from Latin, it means little boy garden projects. And this is in Hungary. And I just want to read the overview of this particular orchard and cidery. It says, real homemade cider from apple juice, locally pressed, hand-picked, local fruit, tree nursery, cider apple and Perry pear trees, heritage European, Hungarian, and English varieties, fruit wines, cordials, jams, jellies, working with nature. I just love that. It's just so simple and so direct, right? Right on the page. And that actually comes from the Facebook page. So I'm going to have a link in the show notes to Abalaget Garden Projects. And Ansha there was writing about the episode on Perry. That was episode number 410, and evidently was listening while doing the late night shift, all about Celtic cider, specifically their perry called Helden. And that's one of the perries that were tasted at CiderCon, that perry panel that I recorded for episode 410. And Ansha's mentioning here that Natalia, who is known as Cider Explorer, was describing Barry Matterson's perry at that point in the podcast. So a really nice way to just kind of make mention, and that's what cross promotion is all about. So thank you so much at Abalaget Garden Projects. Again, a link in the show notes. And just on that same episode, we want to give a tip of the glass to Megan, who was on the podcast that particular episode. She was one of the speakers. That's Megan Fashaway. And at the time of that production, she was the head cider maker at Sea Cider, and this is a British Columbia cidery, a fantastic cidery, but she has since left and now is the head maker at Junction Orchard and Cider House. So if you're at the Olympic Peninsula and you take the ferry over to Victoria and you just go up the road a little bit outside of Victoria, that's where Junction Orchard and Cider House is and where Megan is now. So that was really nice that she reposted that. That's cross-promotion. We also saw that Rakapak, who we have been getting a lot of great cross-promotion. This is a Danish cider maker. Maureen is there. And she was writing about, well, they posted a little photo on the Facebook page, which is inside of a magazine all about a food festival that is happening in Denmark, and was noting how nice it is to have media doing cross-promotion. And it's nice when media does that, and it's really nice when cideries like you at Rakapak do that too. So thank you. And of course, our big fan in Denmark soon was kind of chiming in here and there. And he's a vinegar maker, and he also is part of a cider club. And dang, these people are so cool. Which leads me to Thai Cider. Now, Thai Cider is like a startup cidery happening in Denmark. And Nikki is the dude behind the cidery. And man, what a post Nikki did on Instagram, all for cross-promoting and cider chat. I just love the photos. He started with a photo of his computer, and on the computer was the homepage of ciderchat.com. And you could see on his desk, there was the newly minted, if you will, info flyer on Cider Chat. Then he had another photo of the front door to the cidery with the info flyer up on the front door. He had a really cute photo of himself holding the info flyer. He had a couple bottles of Thai cider with the info flyer on it. He had the info flyer on shelves of bottles. He had it on an apple tree. And then this is really killer here. He had it on the apple tree, and he had headphones over the apple tree with the flyer right below. You got to check him out. I know I reshared it onto Cider Chat Ciderville on Instagram, and also onto the Cider Chat Facebook page. So we'll have a link to Thai Cider. And I know Nikki because he's also been a long-time patron of Cider Chat at the Cider Chat Patreon page. And what he wrote on this post was, Cider Chat is the reason I have a small cidery today, getting up to 700 bottles this year. Cider Chat has been in my ears for the last 6 years. I've listened to all 410 episodes, some of them multiple times. 90% of what I know about cider and apples comes from Cider Chat. And then this one is kind of a kicker. Ria's beautiful voice is with me in the cidery, out by the apples and the other work. Tak, which is thanks in Danish. Oh, my goodness. That really is something. Boom, my head is exploding here. And geez, when that post came out, I mean, you had me smiling all day. And you still do, Nikki. Thank you for all your support and these very, very, very kind words. My older brother says that he listens to me so he could go to sleep. I know that's a compliment, but somehow your compliment really is a little bit better. than what my big brother says. So I super, super duper appreciate that. Do follow him. I mean, shoot, if this isn't like notification that cider's going up in Denmark and that there is so much cool, happy energy, not only just there, but like hungry, all over the map. Cross promotion, it gets us in the buzz. All right, I have a little bit more. I could just go on and on. Nikki, you got me. Boy, that just made me go through the moon. And just in time for this week's episode, we saw that Big Fish Cider Company in Monterey in Virginia posted the Cider Chat info flyer in their tasting room and sent a photo, put it on Instagram, and that's what cross promotion is all about. So you too can become part of this, get mentioned on Cider Chat, and also be part of the year-end episode featuring cross promotion by using the hashtag XPromoteCider and going to the Cider Chat website and downloading the info flyer. You'll find that at the support page. There's like 5 different ways you could support Cider Chat. And we know times are tough, right? They're always tough. So if anything, if you could download the color photo of it, hopefully you have a color printer and post that somewhere, like be like Nikki and put it up in a tree with headphones. I love that. And we will retag it, repost it, and keep on talking about you. So thanks for everyone. I hope that you out there in Ciderville could join this whole initiative to help cross-promote cider and just keep it in the news and keep us going. The struggle's real, but together we can make it happen and keep cider going up and cider in the news.
Walking through the orchards.
The French Cider Tour is headed to Paris, Normandy, and Brittany this coming September. So we are now in May, and we're about 4 months away, which is absolutely incredible to think. I don't know how the time flies, and I am not going to wish my time away. I'm looking forward to a lot of boating this summer, a lot of cider, a lot of, good life. But I know coming up in September, there is like one heck of a trip coming, and what an amazing group of people. This is something I've been talking about. You've been hearing, if you're a regular listener of Cider Chat, you've been hearing me post all these different like little audiograms from past guests on the tour. I'm hoping you don't need any convincing that this is outstanding. It's really the only tour that is offered to both professionals and non-professionals alike in cider. So you don't have to be a professional cider maker to attend. In fact, this is not that kind of journey that you go like a Rhodes Scholar, Elder Hostel or something like that, where you're, constantly being educated. Sure, we're going to be talking to the makers. You could have one-on-one with some of these makers who are unbelievably, well-known and super-duper folks in their own right, 13 generations of cider making. But it's also going to be a time to relax. And I think that's a really key thing. Perhaps you are in the industry and you have a spouse or a mate, someone or a friend who likes to travel with you, but is not head over heels for cider. This is a tour for you because there's a little bit of something for everyone. I mean, we spend a whole afternoon going to Mont Saint Michel, and along the way we stop at that beautiful windmill and get incredible windswept views of the landscape and hang out. I go to Mont Saint Michel, I find a cafe, I sit down, I have a little cuppa and just look out on the water because it's crazy, just to be there in that historical landscape. We have 2 different other castles that we're going to, actually like 3 if you want to kind of include a chateau with orchards and just time to chill out, which is the way I would travel if I was going solo. But because I'm not going solo and I set up for a group, I get to set up the exact way I would travel and do it with a group of people. Like you got like a fun group right there to hang with or to kind of step away with too. So look, if you are interested in the tour, send an email to info@ciderchat.com. And you never know, there might be a seat open. I won't know until we get those emails coming in. And there will be a final announcement. This tour is closing in May. But we might be able to fit some folks in because I always get a bus that's bigger than the group size to accommodate. I just love leading these cider tours. Send an email to info@ciderchat.com and put in the heading French Cider Tour. Up next is our featured presentation, which means it's a very good time to grab a glass and join this chat with Kirk Billingsley, a Big Fish Cider Company, and Cider Chat reporter Al Sachs.
I'm here with Kirk Billingsley, cider maker and founder of Big Fish Cider in Monterey, Virginia. Now, the last time we got together with Kirk was in 2018, and Rhea Windcaller was at CiderCon. She did a great interview with you then. And for those of you who don't know, you can go back on the website and listen to the podcast. But we're here with Kirk today, and we wanted to check in and find out what's been cooking since that time.
Thinking back on my interview with Rhea way back when, in 2018, I'm doing things much the same way. I'm planted another 400 apple trees since then, and some different, putting in some Dabinet. Used to focus entirely on heritage American apples, right. American heritage apples, right. But I love the tannins that you can get from a Dabinet, so I played around with that, and some Golden Harveys and some Granny Winkles, planting some different varieties just to increase my orchard and increase. And I like to see what works in this area. For example, I think I was talking to Al last night, and some trees that I really like a Cox Orange Pippin, this is just not the place for my growing technique. Realize my growing technique is no spray. I do not put sprays or fertilizers on my trees. So if it's acceptable to disease and bugs, I do not like to grow it. And I can take some bug damage, but I can't lose a crop to it. So trees like that, I'll have to I'll graft over, top graft.
So you've been doing a lot of grafting in the last few years.
Oh yeah. I do a grafting workshop here every spring for local folks, and I've got a lot of people now. I know one guy has got 100 different varieties in his behind his house now, and I love seeing that. I love seeing that something that I started them all to just turned into an all-consuming passion like cider making has for me. So
yeah,
that's nice
I think a lot of us who are out in Ciderville here relate to that, and kind of are happy to find other people who are obsessive as they are about apples and cider making.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you are mostly using apples you've grown yourself.
Mostly that and wild apples, right. Yeah, we've got, I tend to about 1,000 trees that were planted on purpose as compared to the wild trees, I guess. So for example, 2023, 2022, and 2023 were bumper years. So I think 2022, about 80% of the cider I made came from apples we grew, and it was over 90% in 2023. 2024, we lost almost the entire crop to frost. The wild apples did well, and one orchard had a light crop, but we lost 95% of our planted, the orchards we tend to.
Right.
So,
right.
Which was very disappointing, but that happens. And one good thing, you try to look for the silver lining.
Exactly.
And that really messes up the life cycle of some of the bugs. When you have a season where there's no apples, the bugs hatch. There's not much for them to eat. So, knock on wood. I hope that this year, since we didn't have apples last year, if we have a good crop, and it looks like at this point in time that it's going to be a nice crop, we shouldn't have the bug damage. So,
well, we are in Monterey, Virginia, and it is beautiful. We were able to drive in here. There's apples, wild apples, and people's little back farm orchards sprinkled throughout the valley here. And we're here in bloom time, and it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, it's neat. I like to go up. There's where I get my wild apples. I can go up and ride along that road, and I can see the white blooming trees all over. There's some trees I've never even been able to get to. They're so far up on the mountain. But that's when I can say, okay, here's where all the apple trees are. It's a little tougher in the fall when everything's green, but this time of year you can go and see exactly where those apple trees are, because there's big white blooms and blooming trees all over the mountain over there.
Now, when I've done some apple exploration too, and in the springtime, of course, is where you target your trees. You don't get fooled by wild cherries around here that often.
Not much. No, it's the first thing that blooms here. You don't see a whole lot of wild cherry here. There is wild cherry, but that's more deeper in the woods and not at the field edges like apples are.
Right.
For mostly for what we see. The other tree that we have is serviceberry, and it blooms just a little bit earlier, but it's blooming right now. It's sort of at the end of the bloom while we have the apple, but the bloom is a lot thinner. It's not as full as an apple bloom. So
it's shadbush
yes.
in our area is lets us know that we got to get down to the Connecticut because of shad are running, and if you want to catch one or two,
well, here they call it serviceberry because when the serviceberry was in bloom, you knew the ground was thawed up enough that they could have their funeral services. They could.
That's good to know. That's great to know.
They could dig the holes for the funerals.
Yeah, and they didn't. In our area, they had little, I guess, temporary tombs where people were stored until the ground was defrosted.
Out.
Yeah. Interesting. So, how have you seen your business change or grow in this last few years?
It's been a steady growth. Obviously the cider world is so multifaceted, from the inexpensive, cheaper ciders. There's still a lot of interest in high quality ciders, single varietals, and really high quality blend ciders. But there's also a growth in the producers that make it. I mean, There's some very good producers out there that when I started, there weren't that many producers out there making high quality ciders. So it's our business has done well. It's not. I mean, I can only grow so much because I'm trying to only use local fruit, and the orchards are not going to ever support a whole lot more growth than what I have. But it's a little bit tougher for my wholesale sales. This little tasting room in Monterey, Virginia, which is the least populated county, I think, or one of the least populated counties east of the Mississippi, does extremely well for a little tiny town of Monterey. We're in a county, a Highland County, of about 2,400 people, and it does very well. But the wholesale sales, I mean, I've got to drive an hour just to get to the first market.
Stop.
Yeah, and so it's a little bit tougher for travel and all that. But it's at my stage in life, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and it's working out perfectly for me.
That sounds great. We were just like overcome with how beautiful it is driving in here, and I would encourage people to come up here. And in part, it's beautiful during the day, but it's a dark sky area, and so if you're like me and a lunatic and like to walk outside and when the moon's up and stare at the moon, it's a good place to be. And I would. We stayed at a little B&B that's right over Claire's Cakes and Bakery. They're on the Airbnb website, so if folks want to check that out when they're in town, they can pull that up through Airbnb, and it's plan your time to come visit the cidery and take in some of the other just gorgeous natural sights around here. One of the things I really think is great about your tasting room is that you have very set hours. This is not an all-night party place.
No, this is not a bar, and we've kept it that way. Fridays it's just 4 to 7, 4 in the afternoon to 7 p.m., and then Saturdays it's 2 to 7, and we do that through the winter. Summer we have Sunday afternoon hours as well. But no, this isn't a party bar. It's a place to taste cider and sit down and have a glass. And we do charcuterie trays as well that obviously go very well with cider. And we started trivia night, and we've got a open mic night sometimes at sort of promoting the local musicians that are getting their start. So that's a lot of fun and well attended.
Well, it seems like it's a real community place. And, it's real people, are saying, "Oh, well, is it when is trivia night?" There, I hear a lot of questions like, "When are we going to get together again?" And I think that's beautiful that there's this cider focused community place, and, well, for some of us of a certain age, it's great to be able to go home and get a night's sleep. Have some
I
fun.
am one of those, yeah. We've had requests to stay open a little later, and it's like, it works well for my staff and myself to be able to clean up and get out of here by 7:30 or 8 in the evening, and I don't think we'll probably change that.
If folks out there in Ciderville want to taste your cider, obviously the best thing is to come here and spend a couple days hanging out with you. But if they can't do that, where can they find your cider?
Yeah, well, we've got an online store at bigfishcider.com. And we through Vito shipper, so I think it's 36, 38. I can't remember exactly how many states we ship to now, but we are, and we have a cider club that I think the membership is well over 100 people now, which is really, really nice. It's really helps support our endeavors here in Monterey, Virginia, and we're shipping it all over. I know Texas and Ohio, etc. We're shipping a lot of cider outside the area, which is good. I like promoting Highland County and the fruits of our labor as well. So
the fruits of your land. One of the things I know that if folks are sort of questioning, well, shall I try it? I would suggest give it a shot. You just recently won a Glencap Award. Can you talk about that? Last
year our Elevation, which is what we call it, is a local hodgepodge of apples that we just get. Some of it is from my orchard, my young orchard. Really don't have a lot of enough fruit to do a single varietal, so it gets thrown in the press with apples that we get from farms. And when we first started, we had a community apple drive trying to get people interested in what we were doing. Right. And the only problem with that is people would pick before apples were ripe. But the good thing that came from that, Al, was farmers would call up and say, "Kirk, apple trees are loaded," and most of the farmers here realize they're up in their 70s and 80s now. I'm not going to pick them, but if you want them, help yourself. So we were able to go test the apples, find out, wait till they were perfectly ripe, and we still go to a lot of those same farms each year now and collect the apples when they're peak ripeness. Some of the apples we have no idea what they are, but the blends are really good. So the Elevation. We do this process, I call it progressive fermentation, where we keep adding in cider from different orchards into the same batch, and it's a wild ferment. We just let the natural yeast go, and it comes out just absolutely lovely. We've been doing it about 4 or 5 years now, and I've got my theory on why it works, but an Elevation was a product of this type of fermentation, and it's won one of the best in class awards for a sweet heritage cider. It's sweet in Highland County. The sweeter ciders sell well. Sweeter ciders, I always tell people, keep the doors open, but my real passion is some of the drier ciders.
I'm with you on that. I tend to go to dry and bitter, which I think kind of matches my personality at times. Well, Kirk, I want to thank you so much for your time. And is there anything else you want to say in terms of signing off to Ciderville here?
No, just come visit us in Highland County. I swear there's no place prettier on earth than Highland County in the summertime. So come on down.
I would have to agree. This is gorgeous. I've never been here before, and I'm in love after just 24 hours.
Thank you, Al.
Al and I met up at a brush fire I was having down in my back 40 here, and we were by a stream. He brought a bottle of the Big Fish Elevation Cider. It's a 7.5% alcohol by volume cider. We put it in the stream to cool it down a little bit because it was a pretty hot day. And then we cracked it open and enjoyed that whole bottle to ourselves. And damn, it was delicious. It had really nice notes of cooked apple and tannic structure. It has a whole bunch of different apples in that blend. And if you want to see photos of that day with both me holding the bottle fresh out of the stream and Al cracking it open, do go to the notes for this year episode 412 at CiderChat.com. And of course, you'll find a link there to the past episode that I recorded with Kirk back in 2018 called No Input Apples. I sure did enjoy this conversation that Al led. He's such a bon vivant, and perhaps you have a bit of that in you too, and you're thinking, geez, I would like to try my hand at doing an audio interview, or maybe I'd like to write a blog post. Well, guess what? Cider Chat might be the perfect fit for you. If you go to the About tab at ciderchat.com and scroll down, you'll see a tab that says Work with Cider Chat. Fill out that form, let us know what your skills are, what you're looking at, and it can be pretty simple. I mean, in this case, Al had a recorder, but sometimes I've used my iPhone to do some recordings. And he just placed it there on the table between he and Kurt and led the conversation. And it was a 25-minute audio that we edited down on this end, and we're able to share that with you today, which is a great way to kind of keep the conversation going to some of those areas that we can't always get to straight away out there in Ciderville. So if that interests you, do a little search for Work with Cider Chat, and it'll bring you right to that page, and we'll be in touch. Up next, I have an email that came in from the newest patron at the Cider Chat Patreon page, and his name is Josh. And he writes, I'm a total cider novice, but I have increasingly been appreciative of the educational and inspiring insights that you provide on your podcast. I initially found the podcast searching online after getting inspired about cider and reading a bunch of books on the topic. I've been listening to your episode for a bit over a year now, and I feel like you totally deserve a little financial contribution given the hours I have spent enjoying your work. Wow. Thank you, Josh. I really appreciate that. I actually work as a gastroenterologist in Melbourne, Victoria, the southeastern part of Australia. And Jody, my wife, works as a general practitioner, a family doctor. Medicine is great, and I love it. But often I feel like the benefit occurs in a small to medium scale of human-to-human interaction. In 2017, after the birth of our second daughter, I was looking for a deeper connection to the land, the environment, and perhaps something even greater. Searching for a little parcel of land in an area where my wife's extended family had once lived, I came across a small and pretty nice-looking farm for sale. When I showed Jody the picture from the real estate agent, she said, "That's my Nan's kitchen." Turns out it was her grandparents' farm that had been put up for sale 24 years after they had sold it. Whew. That gets my heartstrings right there. So against all advice, we bought the farm and have been learning about agriculture and regenerative farming, including multi-species, pastures, and rotational grazing. We have also been revegetating part of the land that once was tall, wet, ancient eucalyptus forest with local native species of trees and shrubs. Our main project to date has been to retire old dairy cows from local farms to produce an ethical, environmentally sensitive, and mature grass-fed and super flavorsome beef. During the journey, we started to understand the importance of soil biology and the similarities between soil health and the health of the human gut and microbiome. At a special musical event in a local town hall, I was poured a glass of homemade dry petnet-style cider by Max Allen, an Australian wine writer-critic, cider enthusiast, and friend of my neighbor, Scott Waisley, who imports Spanish wine into Australia. I was totally blown away. I have never tried anything like it. Most commercial cider in Australia tastes like apple cordial. I had already been reading about silvopasture, which is grazing animals under trees, for some time, and researching suitable exotic and native trees that we could plant in our pasture. So suddenly, I realized that we could plant apples, including cider apples, in a traditional orchard style, and maybe one day make cider from our own fruit. The land we are on is clay loam soil with good rainfall, and roadside apples grow easily. Good for apples, but no good for grapes. I've actually been fermenting and curing meat as a hobby for 12 years since I got into salami making in 2012. This has evolved to a minimal intervention approach and increasingly excellent results. It's a thing we now do on the farm every winter with a few friends and family. I love the idea of working with raw ingredients and transforming them into something exceptional through fermentation. We made our first cider last year after sourcing fruit, including mostly cider apple varieties from 2 local very small-scale farms. We're actually pretty happy with the results. Wild fermentation and no sulfur. And this year we are making batch 2. So we're planning on planting out some of our pasture with traditional style apple cider apple orchards so that in time our cattle can graze under the trees and perhaps one of our daughters may one day want to be a cider maker, or in my retirement I may give it a shot. This year, we plan to plant our first paddock with around 80 cider apple trees on vigorous rootstock and large spacings. Yay! As a novice, I want to hear about the basics of the cider making as well as how small-scale cider makers do their thing. The details about how different people make their different ciders is interesting to me in this phase of my journey. And you all out there in Ciderville can follow Josh and his salami making and cider making at Josh Creates on Instagram. And I'll have a link in the show notes to that. What a wonderful email, Josh. I'm super stoked to have gotten connected now. I instantly followed Josh on Instagram and saw that he was pressing apples. And this was like a barrel press, like an old wooden barrel press, right? Like, kind of like you could use for grapes too. And he was using straw as part of that pressing, right? So you think like, okay, I could only use straw if I have one of those, old-timey type of presses that you would see like in the UK or in France. But that really like wowed me. I thought, shoot, I could do that too, because that's what I have. I have 2 10-gallon barrels from my press. Of course, my press is like from the 1890s, so it goes to figure. And I made mention, I was like, wow, that's really cool. And what he mentioned in the comments of that particular post, he said, we couldn't find organic straw, so we used hay cut on our farm. Last year it worked, but this year the hay was quite grassy, and the fermenting cider has a distinct hay flavor. Hopefully it would mellow. So I just thought that was super cool, because there's probably a lot of us out there in Ciderville who have a big basket press. And I know that some of my local farm stores and farmers, I might be able to get some hay from if I wanted to do that. So super cool idea. And of course, you get to see the whole salami operation too. So thank you for becoming a patron. And you too can become a patron also, like Josh and so many others at the Cider Chat Patreon page. It's one way out of many to support this podcast and help keep it on the air. And next week, we'll be returning to regular programming with some of the recordings from CiderCon 2024. And in between, there's a lot of work that goes on to, edit these podcasts and get them out. So it really super helps. Thanks again, Josh. Thanks to all the fine patrons. Do go to the Cider Going Up page at ciderchat.com if you want to see the commercial makers that are part of that initiative. One of which we're going to be rolling to next. We have a little clip here, don't we, Mr. Quids?
Roger that.
Okay, let's hear from our dear friend in the UK.
This is Tom Oliver from Oakle Pitchard, Herefordshire. And while this may not be popular with all the talking poems, for me, Cider Chat is all about cider made from apples and perry made from pears. The rest of the poems will have to wait outside while we get on with making the real thing. The podcasts, the Totally Cider tours, a veritable audible treasure trove, so go and dig deep and support her.
Thanks, Tom. Hey, Poms, what do you know? Tom Oliver mentioned you.
That was fun.
Yes, Rhea, yes, and I quite agree with him.
Does Tom Oliver also make a hop cider?
Yeah, he kind of does. And I also know he does some really fine co-ferments, too, from what I understand. It's worked with some breweries and, a whole assortment of people out there in Ciderville.
Well, I thought cider was just apples, and he is putting hops in it.
Okay, I see your point. We don't want to press it too much because we do love Tom Oliver. And, that particular hop cider that he made was always something that I sought after for every Christmas Day. I just loved cracking one of those. I think it's In the Hop by Tom Oliver. And now in the U.S. it's a little harder to get his cider, so I haven't been having it. But case in point. Okay, Pops. Well, hey, he mentioned you. I think that means a lot. He's kind of like one of our cider celebrities.
Maybe yes, maybe no.
Oh, come on, meddlers. That's hitting low. Okay, I know we're getting a little our feathers ruffled here, or the fur on the outside of the palm skin.
Rhea,
Yes, Perry Pear.
I would like to add that cider is made with apples and Perry is made with Perry pears.
Okay, duly noted. Boy, my goodness. We're also particular and such purists, but at Cider Chat Central, the table is open to everyone. It's all good. And you know that I always say, when somebody asks me, what is your favorite cider? I always say, the next one in my glass. And with that, we leave you here. This is Rhea Windcaller and the Talking Palms.
Hello.
Looking forward to seeing you in Ciderville.
And Perryville.
Perry.
Okay, Palms, it's all good. Let's just listen to the song.
We like palms. We love orchards and having fun. There is a reason.
There is a reason why we do it like this.
Oh yes, there is.
There is a reason why we do it like this.
Oh yes, there is.
There is a reason why we drink it like this.
Oh yes, there is. There is a reason. We like walking through the orchards, dancing in the streets, smelling all the blossoms, kicking up our feet. We like cider. We like palms. We like orchards, having some fun. There is a reason.
There is a reason why we do it like this. Oh, yes, there is.
There is a reason why we do it like this.
Oh, yes, there is.
There is a reason why we drink it like this.
Oh, yes, there is.
There is a reason. We like walking through the orchards, dancing in the streets, smelling all the blossoms, kicking up our feet.
Oh, yeah.
We like cider.
Oh, yes, we do.
We like palms.
Oh, yes, we do.
We love orchards, having some fun. There is a reason. There is a reason why we do it like this.
Ba-da-da-dum.
There's a reason why we do it like this.
Ba-da-da-dum.
There is a reason why we drink it like this.
Ba-da-da-dum.
Ba-da-da-dum. We like walking down the orchards, dancing in the streets, smelling all the blossoms, kicking up our feet.
Oh, yeah.
We like cider.
Ba-da-da-dum.
We like palms.
Oh, yes, we do.
We like orchards, having some fun.
Yeehaw!